Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. My name is Peter Loshak. It's week 7 in college football, and this is the Into the Weekend with BetDSI show for college football, week 7. Of course, in this show, we talk with Brent, the headlines manager at DSI Sportsbook, about the notable action that he's taken, sharp and public and everything in between for college football each week and NFL. And I was just informed that there is actually a promo code that goes along with this show for new accounts at BetDSI. If you want to sign up at DSI Sportsbook, which I highly recommend, we use the promo code WEEKEND25, and in addition to whatever bonuses you get a new account, you get a free play, $25 free play on top of whatever other bonuses you'll get. That's the promo code WEEKEND25 for new accounts at BetDSI. All right, Brent, week 7 in college football. Last week, the Sharps finally had a great week in both NFL and college and went 8-3 according to your plays as of Friday afternoon. Very nice Sharps. And now they're 33-27 overall in the year of college football. Not bad, 55%. And we've got a week, the usual week 7 assortment of games where the stats are starting to become more and more meaningful. So maybe we'll have a lot of solid sharp plays this week as well. 3 games that I definitely want to ask you about, Brent. One is Oklahoma and Texas. Obviously, Oklahoma off of the huge loss to Iowa State. We're going to talk about the Iowa State game next. But line opened at 7.5. I saw some early action in favor of Texas down to 7. Now it's all the way up to 9. So someone's been betting Oklahoma. Don't know if that's sharp money or public money. It's obviously a huge game, the Red River Rivalry. So I'm assuming that there's big public action on this game. As far as sharp action is concerned, I don't really know. What can you tell us about this one? Oklahoma at Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I do have more money on Oklahoma, and maybe that's why the line's crept up. But my wager count is very, very even. I've taken, just slightly more bets on Oklahoma. But when I say slightly, it's very, very slightly. And again, I just got slightly more money on Oklahoma as well. Now, this line did open at 8, so it did kind of like bump around a little down and up. So we're sitting at 9 right now, pretty much across the board. Everyone's sitting at 9. I just don't see this number moving a whole lot. Like I said, the opener was at 8. Yeah, it did dip down a little bit. It's dipped back up. I mean, if someone says, do you think this line will get down to 7.5 again? I would say I don't expect that at all. Do I think it'll go to 10? I don't expect that at all either. So, I mean, I've got a count that's really, really high and really, really balanced. And I've got a lot of money on this game, and it's also really, really balanced. So I'm, right now, I hope everything holds true the way it is right now, because it's just a real good game for us, both the side and the total. I do have a little bit more money on the over, which is typical. This line has crept up, on the total, maybe like a point, but not much at all. Typical wager count stuff in terms of the count being almost like 2-1 favoring the over, but nothing sharp on that either. So it's, the totals barely moved the point, the sides barely moved the point, and I got a lot of action on the game. So right now it's, it's a good spot for us right now and no sharp involvement.
All right, that's about what I would have expected. A big action on the game, split, and no notable sharp action. Then let's talk about Kansas and Iowa State. Iowa State obviously off of the huge win, playing Kansas, who looked bad last week. Line opened at 20.5. Steadily was bet in Iowa State's favor, got all the way up to 23.5. I gave the opinion that I thought Kansas might be a good play in this one. I did make it an official pick when it was at 23 on my record this week. Got all the way up to 23.5. Now it's back down a bit to 22.5. Would not be surprised if that was a little bit of sharp action on Kansas when it hit 23.5. And as far as what drove the Iowa State lineup, I'm assuming that was public action. And I am guessing that just because of that one game against Oklahoma, that the public would be attracted to Iowa State here. Is that the case, Brent?
It's not, not so much. I actually have slightly more bets on Kansas, which, myself as well is kind of surprising. Now, do I think that's going to hold true till the end of the week? Probably not. I think by tomorrow, game time, I'll probably have more bets on Iowa State. And again, it's just kind of a general tendency of public wanting to bet favorites more so than dogs, because, the favorites are supposed to win. So that's half the equation right there. I do have, more money. More money on Iowa State. Like I said, my count is very close. Like I said, very slightly favoring Kansas. I don't have any sharp money on this one. It just kind of sometimes it's not necessarily sharp money that drives these numbers. I mean, often it is. Don't get me wrong. But it could be like someone really sharp plays at one shop and everyone else is balanced on the game, or it hasn't had a sharp come in either way, and they kind of just go with the flow. Basically, that happens every now and then, and that kind of seems for me at least. That kind of seems the way with the ebb and flow of this game has gone so far in terms of the line movement. Like you said, did moving up. We opened up like a little bit higher, so we're open up at 21. We did touch up to 23 for sure. Now we're back to 22.5. But again, I don't have a big position on this. I do have more money on Iowa State. I've got slightly more bets on Kansas. just the total as well. It's just got slightly more money on the under as well. So it's not really, like a big game either way in terms of the swing so far. I do know this total has dipped down, and I do have more money on the under, but I don't have sharp money involved. I do have what I'm going to call a pseudo sharp guy who did come into this game on the total, though, and that was under the 67.5. So it's been, quite a bit of movement, like a full 3-point movement on the total here from 68 that some places open up at. And again, like I said, pseudo sharp action only, and that was on the under 67, and that's why I have more money on the under.
Okay, no notable action on that game. I guess I'm not surprised. Definitely an interesting situation. And then let's talk about Auburn LSU. Auburn obviously has been awesome. LSU has lost 4 in a row ATS, although that was just on the closing number last week. Obviously, they did get the win over Florida, and any of the early numbers, if you bet LSU, you cash. But the closing line was officially 1.5, and they did lose that one. But clearly, LSU, people saw them lose outright to Troy. Awesome's been Auburn off 3 straight dominant wins in a row, so I'm guessing the public's got to be loving Auburn here. I did see some early movement in favor of LSU. It was open about 6.5, went down to 6. Now it's solidly up to 7, though, market wide. I'm assuming that was mostly public action that drove that line up for Auburn.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of movement on this number as well. I mean, you try not to bounce in around up, between the 6.5 and 7 or 7.5 and bounce, through that number as much as possible. Now, again, I mean, 7's less of a key number in college football than it is in NFL. I think NFL, you kind of respect those key numbers 3 and 7 more so than college football, but they're obviously still relevant numbers, and you like to blow through them like they don't matter. This game, I do have, a lot more money in terms of my wager count on Auburn. I got slightly more money, almost, well, I'm going to say 3-1 in terms of the amount of money I have favoring Auburn. I do have my wager count almost 5-1 favoring Auburn as well. So in terms of the public, they're definitely one-sided with that. Anytime you've seen that number come back down, though, it was what I would call pseudo-sharp action. I did get pseudo-sharp action on LSU. They took them plus the 7.5. So, we probably, hopefully, we hope we're going to sit on 7 right now, not have to move off that number, not get back down to 6.5. But what I saw so far was public or pseudo sharp money on 7 plus 7.5, public all over to Auburn. So this could set up to be one of those good spots for us where I've got a lot of public action and a lot of public money on Auburn, and I've got the pseudo sharp money at least sitting on LSU, and I'd be comfortable with that.
All right, but no clear list, guys, on that game either. So the 3 games I wanted to ask you about, all interesting handicapping situations, but no clear list action as yet reported from Brent from BetDSI. Again, you can use the promo code Weekend25 to get a free play, $25 free play for new accounts. Brent from BetDSI. There have been a lot of games this week with some pretty notable line move, especially on the line moves, especially on the sides. A lot of games with like 3 or 4 point line moves. So I'm assuming that some of that was driven by notable sharp action, especially in some of those MAC games and the lesser conferences. What can you tell us about notable sharp action for college football week 7?
Yeah, you mentioned some of those games like in the lesser conferences and stuff like that, and sharps will just they'll find value wherever they can. I mean, they'll bet you absolutely anything and everything. They'll bet you WNBA totals. They'll bet you college basketball half times. They'll do whatever they find value on. Now, it doesn't have to be like a big game when you've got Oklahoma and Texas playing each other or whatever. They'll just find value wherever they have. And starting off is an example of that in Miami, Ohio, and Kent State. This is a total play where I got sharp money on the under of this one. So Miami, Ohio, Kent is at Kent State right now. The total is 41.5, and I took sharp action on this one at the under 43. Another total here is Virginia and North Carolina. Also money on the under this one. This was under 53.5 is where that came in. Line's down to 50 right now, 50 and 50.5 across the board. So 2 totals right there. First side to speak of is Rutgers. I'm sure Peter was all over this one. This kind of screams like a Peter kind of play. Rutgers is on the road at Illinois, and Rutgers is where the sharp money came in. And again, Rutgers is just not the kind of team where you're going to get a whole lot of public action the other way. So you'll definitely like that spot. I do have a wager count of almost 2-1 favoring Illinois. So that's kind of a good spot for us in that I've got public money account almost 5-1 favoring Illinois. Yet sharp money on Rutgers at the plus of 3, and we're sitting at 2.5 right now. So Rutgers the first side there. Just dropping down one game is Texas Tech at West Virginia. This game also saw quite a bit of movement, I think, in terms of the line dropping down. And again, this is about where I've just got a ton of money, public money on West Virginia. My wager count here is almost 5. Honestly, it's closer to 7-1. Sorry, just let me check my math here. Almost 7-1 favoring West Virginia. So huge money coming in on West Virginia at home. Yet the line's dropping down to 3.5 where it is right now. Sharps grab Texas Tech at plus 5.5. So that definitely sets up as a sharp and public split here. Another game where I'm going to have the public and sharps on the same side is Tulane. Tulane is on the road this week at Florida International. They were laying 11 at one point in time, and that's where the sharps came in. We're all the way up to 13.5 right now. That line, the number didn't last too long at 11. The sharps grabbed that right away, laying minus 11 with Tulane, and the public has basically tailed that up to like 13 and 13.5 where we are right now. So that's a game where I've got almost like 3 times as many bets on Tulane, so the public's on that same side, and my money's not great either. Too, well, not greater for my great for my side of the stage. That I'm sitting here with a decision on Tulane and probably not a hope of getting public money back the other way. TCU and Kansas State. Here's more of a name brand game we're talking about. This is TCU on the road at Kansas State, and again, this has been quite a bit of line movement on this game as well. TCU got the sharp money early at minus 4.5, and we're up to 7 right now. It's pretty much like 6.5 lay 15 or 7 dog 15, pretty much out there market wide with TCU at Kansas State. But TCU minus 4.5 is where that sharp money came. Another total for you is Charlotte at Western Kentucky. I got money here on the over on this one. And again, yeah, over is never a good spot for us when we get the sharp money on the over of a game like this, because generally the public's on the over as well, which they are. I mean, the public hasn't really, got dug too deep into this game. Charlotte, Western Kentucky, not one you're going to get a ton of public money on, but I do have sharp action on this total. And like I said, it came at 46. We're sitting at 48 right now, pretty much market wide. I do want to mention also the side, just something to look out for on game day. Again, it's not like the public's going to be heavily involved in this game. If they do play it, they're probably going to play Western Kentucky. But I've got what I'm going to call pseudo sharp action on Charlotte at plus 17.5. Now, the line is 16.5 right now, but I just think the line I think is going to might creep up. It's 16.5 at a lot of places. I think there's even a 17 out there right now. There's also a 16 out there as well. So I just think if you watch this game and see this line continue to drop down, if it closes around 16 or 15.5, you can probably be pretty sure that it was public money on Charlotte. Like I said, it's a pseudo sharp guy who took them plus the 17.5, and I just have a kind of a feeling that it might continue to go that way. Wyoming's a team we seem to talk about every week, whether they're playing on them or they're playing the unders of Wyoming games. This week I do have the money on the sharps on Wyoming at plus 3. Wyoming is on the road at Utah State. Utah State, now they're 2.5 point home favorite, but obviously getting past the 3 is a big deal for us, and it's obviously very important for the sharps as well, grabbing that number. So I do have sharp action on Wyoming at plus the 3. Another one here is UNLV. UNLV is at Air Force. Excuse me, we're down to 7.5 on Air Force right now, and sharp money was on UNLV at plus 10. This is another game where I've got I always like these spots, and Peter, you mentioned these as well. When I've got a sharp side one way and public the other way, Air Force is almost like a 5-1 count right now in terms of the actual individual number of bets I've taken. So almost 5-1 count favoring Air Force, yet sharp money on UNLV. Thus, we're down to 7.5 right now. UCLA, another game that's moved through the pick. I mean, this is kind of like a tough game. I think UCLA at Arizona. I mean, I think looking at where it is right now, UCLA is a 2.5 point favorite. But the function of the line, your idea is to balance action, what number is going to work. And it's just like UCLA, Arizona was just kind of like, if you kick this around enough, it's like, heck, I don't know. I mean, you could have opened 1 either way. Instead, we opened up a pick, and now we're at 2.5, and that was sharp action that came on UCLA. I've got almost like twice as many bets on UCLA as well, so the public is kind of going the same direction as the sharp, but it's not a massive count in terms of the public action. But UCLA at a pick is where the sharp money came, and we're sitting at 2.5 right now. I think yesterday that was 2, so it's kind of continued to climb up there. Navy at Memphis. Navy. Now, again, when you got lines on Navy dropping down, you can be pretty sure that it's sharp money behind them. Yeah, I mean, the public isn't going to jump all over Navy, even though they are 5-0. They're at Memphis, who's 4-1, but Navy plus 4.5 is where that sharp money came. We're sitting at 3.5 right now, market wide. I think this game also had dropped all the way down to 3, crept back to 3.5, but just kind of like you got the home favor there with Memphis. So 3.5 is where the public kind of seems to have gotten involved. Just looking at my wager count, getting that impression. But the sharp money was clearly on Navy plus the 4.5. And the last game I want to talk about is kind of a trend lately in terms of the sharps, at least, and that is playing. They seem to be playing Oregon games under, which is kind of bucking the trend from years past, and they're playing Stanford games under as well. And so lo and behold, you've got Oregon at Stanford. What happens? Well, the Sharps go under 61, and we're all the way down to 55.5 right now on that total. So it's dropped quite a bit. Yesterday we were at 57, so even like just from yesterday to today, it dropped another 1.5. But Sharps being what they are, Sharp grabbing the best number, went on the under 61 of this one, Peter.
Wow, a lot of sharp action this week. A lot of interesting stuff. Kind of a lot of surprising stuff. You're right on the Rutgers game. I did wind up taking that one late on Rutgers. I took it at 2.5, and I gave the under at 48. That one you didn't mention. Texas Tech game. Interesting. Sharps on Texas Tech. I just covered that with Steve from collegefootballwinning.com, and we both like West Virginia at -3.5 in that one. So we will see. But a big sharp public split there. And of course, UCLA was one of my first picks of the week at the +1.5. Great information as always, Brent. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week for College Football Week 8.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.